Hello and welcome to episode 14 of my Let's Play Terraria 1.3, Season 2. Did I already say it was episode 14? I think so. I am the Forgetful KHM, and I have created a new world. It's an expert world with corruption, and we're going to take on the Eater of Worlds, just as I said we would in the last episode. So just to make my exit here. Alright, we're gonna go over to the leftmost one. Out of the way. Let's see, is there any to the left of here? I can't remember. No, there isn't, so that's the leftmost one. I thought I was gonna have to do a little bit of walking, but I guess not. Alright, now, I don't expect a whole lot from this boss. I expected it to be fairly easy, and I also expected to find a orb thing in there, but I guess it's one of the smaller things. Okay, so, quick coverage of the arena here. It's fairly small, about one screen in size, so you can take advantage of one fireplace, one art lamp thing. I have a spawn point here, so I can quickly warp in here after I break the third stone. Or shadow orb, and it should be interesting. Okay, well, actually, no, it should be fairly simple. Fairly easy, fairly straightforward. And there are some altars. We're going to be able to break those altars soon, and you know what? Sure, why not? What is this? Oh, Demonitor. Cool. Alright, so we'll just grab this leftmost orb here that I can find. Now, I know this boss fairly well, or at least I know the non-expert mode version of this boss. The expert mode might throw some surprises at me, but I can just do this. There we go, that is a lot easier. But all in all, I think this will be fairly easy. What do I get? Rubble chill down my spine, and I got a musket, and some musket balls. Sweet. Oh, whoop. Alright. And now for the third orb. Right? By the way, if you press Control on your keyboard, you get this rather cool, auto tool mining thing, which is really quite nice. Really helped out while I was digging that huge hole once I, discovered it. Okay, and we got a sluggish musket. So we got another musket. That's a disappointing third drop, but I'm planning to break a whole bunch of these shadow orbs and kind of farm the dude, so that's not too much of an issue. And that's a bunny statue. I'm going to take the bunny statue. And you know what? My inventory is already full. And this, toss all that in there. No, I want these. Even though it kind of spoils things a little bit, I want those. Oh, almost forgot my safe. Alright, now, you're probably wondering what... Let's do that so I don't have knockback. Now, you're probably wondering what all those stars were about, and that's because I was kind of thinking, if this boss, if I'm going to be fighting a lame boss, I might as well go all the way in my lame boss fighting. So I've brought with me a star cannon with a demonic modifier. What? Is that a jungle temple chest just underneath me? I'm gonna have to go loot that later. Not right now, obviously, but later. Alright. Alright, here he comes. Come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ouch. Yeah, I would say that was a pretty lamed out fight. That's interesting that stars get stopped by platforms. I did not know that. Well, I know that now. How many stars did I go through? Not even... well... No, I had 5 stacks, didn't I? Oh, so I went through a little bit more than a stack. Alright. That's a bummer. That's a bit more ammo than I was expecting to go through. But that's fine, really. Alright. Oh. Guess that's all the shadow orbs this particular path had to offer. Let's see, where do you go? You go down to right where I was. Okay. How about the next one over? You go down to a dead end. The next one over has stuff. Alright. What did I get from that? Oh, a shadow orb light thing. Made obsolete by my lantern, which I never actually spoke of, or talked about, and I really should have. This lantern you can only get by, from the, skeletal merchant, who can only be found, in the cavern lair, or I think underground cavern lair. And he only sells this lantern on the night of a full moon. And, well, he's kind of hard to find normally. At least I found it to be so. And it took me quite a number of tries on full moons to finally get him. But I finally got it, and finally got the lantern. And, treasure within 15 blocks of it, it will light up. Demonic Veil Thorn. Alright, so... toss down a chest, or this. Deposit all. Alright. What? Oh, was that all the shadow orbs that were here? Oh, that's a bummer. Well, that's a real bummer. Yeah, I think that was all the shadow orbs that were here. Maybe there's some a little further over. You know, we don't have to climb out, we can just warp out. This looks like it goes somewhere. Okay, cool. Another shadow orb. I was worried I might have to go find another corruption there for a moment. Okay, yes, and I picked up my safe again. Always sucks to leave your safe places. That safe isn't exactly cheap. Okay, so you... and now... come and get me. What's hurting me? Better question, where's my hornet? Oh, he's fighting. I already chug a health thing? I think I did. Oh, they're spitting stuff! That's what's hurting me. I didn't realize they spat stuff now. Ow. Alright, alright, alright. There we go. How much did I go through? I went through another stack, it looks like, of stars. I got the Ballo hurt. Kind of cool. But, still no trophy. Might take a little longer than I had thought it would. Alright, so which ones have I gone down? Okay, so it looks like I've gone down this one here. Yeah. So, next one. Godly musket. Alright, so... next orb. Oh hey, a fish thing. Fish statue. That was one right. Oh, I have no chat here. No chat history. Screams echo around you. A zealous musket? Man, I'm just getting all of these muskets. Alright. It looks like this is quite possibly the last shadow orb on this in this area. Oh, shut up, cell phone. Nobody likes you. Go away. There we go. Alright, well... Still haven't quite gotten what I'd hoped for. So, crap. I guess, I'm going to need to rebuild my setup on the other side and try again later on, after possibly getting more stars. Alright, so... I have fought the Eater of Worlds a lot and got myself a new pet. I think he's actually kind of the cutest one I have, so I'm gonna just hang out with him for a while. But I also got what I sought, which is the Eater of Worlds trophy. So let's place that. There we go. Sweet. Now, what I need to do is... Well, I need to clear out the dungeons, since I've actually hardly touched that at all. And gather all the chests there, look for a shadow key. And then I'm going to start prepping the underworld for the Wall of Flesh. So... I suspect we might actually have enough time in this episode to try to take on the Wall of Flesh. Possibly. I don't know, we'll have to see, just, you know, how the mood takes me when we get to that point. Okay, now, I just remembered I was going to talk about this thing, the Worm Scarf, which was dropped by the Eater of Worms. This thing is amazing. It has a reduced damage taken by 17%. It's an actual percentage. There's a percentage damage reducing item in this game. That is mind-blowing. Alright, so, this kind of makes me want to do a bit of a rant on how armor works and why that is mind-blowing. So, we're gonna nerd out a little bit here with numbers. So, there are two types of armor that are generally around. We call them, well, I call them absolute armor, which does an absolute amount of damage reduction. So, raw damage minus your absolute armor equals how much damage you take. And then there's relative armor, which does damage reduction relative to the amount of damage you take. So the damage you get, the raw damage, times 1 minus your relative armor value gets you your damage. Yes. So if we pull up some of the things that I've done here, some example things, you know, I just realized these should probably be called raw instead of that. So let me just go through, fix that. There we go. Oop, this one needs to be fixed too. There we go. So, yes. So basically, absolute armor. If you have absolute armor of 10, or absolute armor of 10, and raw damage is 10, then the damage you actually take ends up being 10 minus 10, 0. Whereas over here, relative armor, if you have raw damage of 10 and relative armor of 10%, you have basically 10 times 0.9, which gets you 9. So, for low damage values, absolute armor is a clear winner. But if we come up here, go medium damage, or I guess not medium damage, but eventually they'll get to a point where they're doing the exact same amount of damage reduction. As you can see here, with a raw damage of 100, each one of those comes out to be 90 damage that you take. But then the relative armor, as the raw damage you get increases, the relative armor does more and more protection. So for raw damage of 1000, the absolute armor reduces the damage to 990, while the relative armor reduces the damage to 900. So from this, it shows you that absolute armor, what it's good at is early game. And kind of as the game progresses and the amount of damage you take increases more and more, it becomes less and less effective. Whereas relative armor here is the exact opposite. It absolutely sucks in the early game, but in the late game, it's amazing. Alright, so after that little disruption, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So, absolute armor is good for early game, terrible for late game. Relative armor is the exact opposite. It's terrible early game, and gets really good late game. Because of that, I actually prefer relative armor in my games, and I think most games actually use relative armor, although I haven't actually played enough to be able to say that with any sort of certainty. But Terraria uses the absolute armor model, or armor protection model for its armor. Okay, so switched my Skype to Do Not Disturb so I don't get any more of those pop-ups. Yes. So, what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay. So, Terraria uses the absolute armor model, instead of the relative armor model. So it's actually kind of amazing that they would put a relative armor item that you can put on. Yes. So this item here, it's not very good in the early game, which is actually kind of interesting because you get it early game, but it sucks early game. And because of that, I think most players would probably just kind of toss it aside. What it's really good for is late game, where you're taking like 400 units damage or something like that. Then it becomes absolutely amazing. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, so now, an interesting thing to note, which is probably why they went with an absolute armor model for Terraria over a relative armor model, is what happens, or there's a little bit more strategy involved with dealing with absolute armor than there is with relative armor. To demonstrate, okay, let's say you have 100 units of damage. You have two ways you can deliver it. You can deliver it over 10 hits, so 10 raw damage each hit, or you can do it in one big hit for a full 100. Now, in absolute armor, with absolute armor, you don't want to deliver it over. You don't want to deliver your 100 hits over 10 hits, or your 100 damage over 10 hits, because then you do absolutely no damage in this system here. Now, I should note that this is a very simplified equation. This isn't exactly what Terraria uses. Yes, so if you do 100 damage over 10 hits, you do no damage. And, but if you do 100 units of damage over one hit, you do 90 units of damage. So clearly, with absolute armor, you generally want to do one big punch. With relative armor, though, if you do it over 10, the 100 damage over 10 hits, or the 100 damage over in one hit, it does the exact same amount of damage either way. You do 90 damage no matter what, so it doesn't really matter. Yes, so kind of interesting. Yes. So the mini shark up here, it's a pretty good early game because it does lots and lots and lots of hits, but it's very low damage. So each bullet does like maybe a couple of hit points here and there in the early game. So it can do lots of damage in the early game because it's able to just overwhelm the enemy with all these hits. But each one has actual little damage value, so the majority of that damage is mitigated by the armor. So it's okay in the early game, but the moment you get to mid-game, it will just absolutely suck and you just won't want to use it anymore. Yes. And I think that's pretty much my rant here. So I'm gonna go tackle that dungeon now. Okay, I was kind of hoping to at least be prepared to take on the Wall of Flesh at this point, but I'm really not. I'm struggling down there. I've started building the bridge, as you can see, preparing the arena, but once I get down here and run over to about here, I just get swarmed with everything. So I've been trying different builds, different techniques to try to survive down there. So far, I haven't really come up with too much. So far, the most promising one is a very bee-heavy build, which, you know, just advanced bees, bee gun, high mana build, etc., etc., to just wipe out everything. But the problem with that is that I cannot control those bees. They could literally just run anywhere and attack whatever, which is really, really not good when you have demons that fly around with things that trigger the boss if they fall into lava. So, I've been trying different ways, and I can't come up with anything. So I'm forced to use the bee-heavy route. But the problem is again, if you attack a demon and it drops the little voodoo doll into lava, I'm screwed. Sure, it'd make a funny couple-minute video, but anyway, I have actually come up with an idea of how to solve this. A way to make bees viable. And that is, if there is no guide, then they can't possibly spawn the Wall of Flesh. So, sorry Seth, you have to take one for the team. And now let's make this not a valid room so he never comes back, or at least doesn't come back anytime soon. And I'm gonna go continue working on that, and you know, I'm gonna end the episode here. I'm gonna work on this in between episodes, and hopefully at the start of next episode we'll be ready to take on the Wall of Flesh. So once again, I am KHM, and I am a horrible person.